Assalamu alaikum. How are you today? I haven't made a video for a week now. I have visitors here. My wife's sister and her husband are here. We're all going to a wedding this weekend, so I've been very busy for the past 5 or 6 days and I haven't had a chance. But another reason why I haven't had a chance to make a video is I've been very busy installing my inverter system. I have a huge system, and yesterday I just completed installing a 5 kilowatt inverter and a 5 kilowatt battery. And it's right here. You can see it here up on the wall. There's the 5 kilowatt inverter. It's on, it works perfectly. I have the whole house's lights on here, and I have one wall plug circuit with all the stuff that doesn't total 1 kilowatt. At the bottom, that is the 5 kilowatt battery. You can see it's fully charged, and of course in this middle section you've got the battery fuses. I just want to show you this beautiful interface that the SunSync comes with. It's actually quite nice, and it's a touch screen, so if you press there, it shows you an overall picture of the system. You can see that I don't have any solar. Both solar sets are empty. There's nothing happening there. It says 0 watts on both of them. I have 4 solar panels on order, which will total 2,140 watts. Of course, you don't get the full power from there. But now that the system is fully working, I can now install solar. Any one of these buttons can be pressed, and then you can see what's happening. That's a complete overview of the system. You can see right now the battery is drawing 27 watts. This inverter is supplying 400 and nothing. The grid is supplying 480 watts because the AC is on, as it says over there. And so right now we don't experience any load shedding. When I came home now, there was load shedding, but the microwave was working, and I actually have a very good idea now of what equipment in my house consumes in terms of energy. The 2 flat screen TVs, they are 50 inches, fairly new. They both consume 70 watts. The aircon consumes 1,100 watts. The microwave consumes 1,300 watts. The kettle consumes 2,100 watts. A kettle, that's just to boil. If you boil a cup of water, it consumes 2,100 watts. So don't ever fill your kettle up, because the longer it takes, the more it's going to consume. So throw in enough water to boil 1 cup, and then you're using 2,100 watts, but for 2 minutes. And remember, 1,000 watts for an hour is 1 unit of electricity, because 1 unit of electricity is actually 1 kilowatt hour. In other words, 1,000 watts for an hour. So if you leave your kettle on, then it's going to draw 2,100 watts. And so if you take your geyser, for example, a geyser and a kettle, a massive geyser of 150 liters or 200 liters, actually consumes the same amount of energy as a tiny little kettle, comparatively speaking. The kettle draws just over 2,000 watts, and so does your geyser. So for every hour that your geyser is on, it's drawing 2 units of energy, 2,000 watts for an hour. That's 2 kilowatts, so that's 2 units. And So for those of you who leave your geysers on the whole day, yes, the geyser switches on and off, but you are actually keeping your water on and you are consuming 2000 watts per hour just to keep your water warm. Um, it doesn't make sense. I've got my geyser on the geyser timer and it goes on from 4 to 5 in the morning and 4 to 5 in the afternoon. And the water is perfectly hot at all times, any time of the day. Okay, it's only myself and my wife in the house, so we don't really use a lot of water. And remember that when you shower, you drain all the hot water and it gets replaced with cold water. But we don't restrict our showering, we just have normal showers. And so 2 hours a day is more than enough, and it's spread 2 hours in the 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon. And that keeps the water piping hot the whole day. You can also set your thermostat down to 57 degrees as the recommended setting, because just think about it. You're heating your water up so hot, 60, 65 degrees, and then you're adding cold water so that your body can take it. So why are you heating the water up so hot in the first place? You are just wasting electricity. We all have to start looking into clean energy systems. The system that I showed you now, it's actually a clean energy system. And people are installing it all over the world with solar panels. You can actually run a system like this without a battery. The battery is just there for storing the electrical energy. And so if you put in solar panels with an inverter, you can run things off your inverter for free. You get free electricity. So that's what I'm going to do now. It just so happens that this inverter system can also do load shedding. So in other words, if you have your battery connected, it can take energy from your battery to keep your equipment running. If you have solar panels connected, it will use energy from your solar panels to keep equipment running. Obviously, you have to do a calculation to make sure that the equipment that is running through your inverter only consumes the amount of energy that your inverter can supply. For example, I'm using a 5000 watt inverter, so I can only run a maximum of 5000 watts of equipment. And the other thing is, just bear in mind that um, most things don't run at the same time. So it's not as if, like, take your aircon for example. It's only me and the wife in the house, and so I've got the aircon connected to the inverter, even though the aircon draws 900 watts, the one that I have. I have the kettle connected to the inverter. Oh, sorry, I don't. I have the microwave connected to the inverter, even though the microwave draws 1300 watts. And that is because at any one time, if you must look, I showed you now, there wasn't even a half a kilowatt being supplied by the inverter. And I've got 5000 watts. So I can run an aircon of 900 watts when there's load shedding. I can run a microwave oven of 1300 watts together with the aircon when there's load shedding, or even when there isn't load shedding. So um, the calculation that you do must also take into consideration what gets run at the same time. And okay, there are certain things. I've got two fridges on the load shedding circuit, but they never switch on at the same time. I've got the garage door on the same circuit because we never use the garage. I've got the doorbell on, but we hardly ever use the doorbell. The gate is an electronic gate, and we hardly ever go in and out. So all those things are, you have to consider. You can't just add everything up and say that's it, that's 5000 watts, because when you got your system up and running and you look at it working, then you see it's running 500 watts most of the time. And then it maybe goes up to 800 watts or 1500 watts or 2000 watts. And then that's not even half the capacity of your inverter. And I'm going to put in solar panels soon. I've got it on order. It's in my inbox. And then I'm going to be wasting free electricity from the sun because the battery will charge up in the space of an hour if I'm only drawing a half a kilowatt. And the solar panels are supplying in the region of 2000 watts. So the battery will charge up very quickly. And then all the rest will just get wasted. Because a solar panel, if nothing is drawing the DC supplied by the solar panel, then it won't flow. It will just be there. So it would make sense for me to then add on more things onto the inverter circuit so that they can be supplied with power directly. And that's important. Otherwise, it's just a waste. The other thing is make sure that you buy a good inverter and not one of those cheapos. Just to give you a price comparison, most inverters are in the region of 12 to 14,000 rand. This one that I have is 25,000 rand. And I'm not bragging about the price now, but I'm trying to tell you that if you buy a more expensive inverter, then it's able to mix and match solar and your grid power and your battery power. It mixes and matches it. Whereas the other one, it switches either or, and you're going to get frustrated with those systems because it can't cope with, especially during load shedding, it just can't cope. So you're going to have to unplug certain things and make sure you don't switch on certain things, and then your inverter is going to moan, the alarm's going to go off, and things of that nature. But you need to do these kind of things. Salaam alaikum.